Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Yevamos, daf Kuf Yud. We are going to begin on the bottom of Kuf Testament base, 3 lines on the bottom. So we were learning in yesterday's Mishnah that if you have a situation where two sisters got married, one was a Gadol, one was a Katana. So the Katana was only Kedusha Rabbanan, and then the husband of the Gedola dies. So therefore, really, there is a potential yibum that should be taking place. However, the question is, do we actually require this girl to do miyun to be able to walk away from this? This was the discussion in our Mishnah. And then we said possibly we don't have to force her to do it or teach her, but instead it's her choice. And if she decides to not do miyun, so she should wait until she gets older. And once she gets older, then V'teitze, according to the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel, V'teitze halazu mishamachos isha, and then she'll be free. She won't have to do yibum anymore because of achos isha. And the question we asked is it necessary that bia has to take place with this girl who just became grown up, or is it not necessary? Just the fact that she's now old. So therefore, it was actually brought down this dispute. So we're on Kuf Testament base, rise on the bottom. V'savar Rav, does Rav really hold e boil in, e lo boil lo? That's all totally if bia took place, whether or not in fact she's considered to still be a gedola. Itmar, we learn like this: katana shlo mi'ayna. So you have this katana that didn't do miyan, so she's still linked to this man that she's married to min rabbanan. V'higdil, and she gets older. V'omda v'nises, and she stands up and marries someone else. So in this situation, it's a little bit uncertain exactly what her motivation was. Why would she have done this? So on this, Rabbi get misheni. She says you don't need a get from the second person because she's married to this first person. So the second marriage is nothing. Shmuel get misheni. Shmuel says no. You do need a second get from this. You do need a get from the sheni. Must be because the first kedushin without being really is nothing. So, in this case, as I wrote over here, she's not sure. He could give me a get. I could do mian, but until bia being gadola may not be enough. Okay, that's what we actually discussed and said that last time. So we have this machlokus, Rab and Shmuel, whether or not it's necessary for the second person that she married to actually have to give a get. As we continue to Kuf Yud Amud Al. So my love, Deloy boil. It must be we're talking about a case where there was no bia. Says Rashi, Rishain, the first guy, Mishigadol, from the time that she grew up, at that point they never had bia together, and therefore becoming a Rav, Enu Sricha get Misheni. That's the reason why she does not. Nonetheless, you still don't need a get from the second guy. The whole kedushin rishonim kishigadol, since just because she became a gedola, that in itself is significant enough, even without bia. So therefore, we see the chara bia is not requiring. Where it says lo de boil. Actually, there was bia. In fact, the Gemara eat the boil. If they had bia, so my time with the Shmuel. Why would Shmuel think that if they actually had bia, that Shmuel says Sricha get Misheni? This is definitely her husband, the first guy. So why would she need a second get? A get from the second person. So my time in Shmuel, Ksavar kol boil adas kedushin rishonim who boil. It's an interesting svara. Anyone who has bia was aldas bia kedushin rishonim. So what? And therefore, since this situation, since Rashi lefikach eno sricha get misheni, this is why you may not need a get. The beila shabal rishain, the first bia shigadol stam l'shem kedushin eschamna, the idea hayashin kedushin katana klum. So this is the whole question. Do we say that he knew that the original kedushin was nothing, and therefore this bia isn't like that is the ma'aseh kedushin? And therefore, according to that, they're married, and you would therefore need to get masheni. Shmuel says, no. The truth is, his das is on the first relationship, and therefore the first kedushin, the kedushin that took place, was nothing, and therefore, because of that, But this was based on a kedusha d'Rabbanan when she was a katana, so she still needs a get from the second guy. But this machlokas, if that's how you're gonna frame it, this is already said elsewhere, did not. Kidsha al tanai. Let's say kedusha was done on condition, says Rashi. Shinaleh nedarim. Let's say on condition there's no vows attached. The kansa stam. However, when they actually got married, it was done without any conditions, says Rashi. Nimsal and nedarim, and then it turned out that she actually did have nedarim. So the kedushin was al tanai, but then the sun was not. Says Rashi, sricha get the bia l'shem kedushin havoy. She needs a get because the bia was based on the kedushin. The idea hayashin kedushin harishenim kum, and therefore the first that was really nothing. So Rabbi Mesricha and get Shmuel Mesricha and get Rabbi Mesricha and get Kivan de Natzva. The fact that they got married and he didn't make any conditions. Achuli achale latanoi. The fact is, and he did it stam, probably is a proof that he did it in a way of removing himself of this condition that he initially had, and he was forgiving of it, and therefore because of that, they're considered to be halachically married, to the extent that he would actually have to give a get to release her. Shmuel Omer Insrichem and get Kol HaBoil Das Kedushin Rishonim U'Boil. So the question is, where do you have this concept when a person is boil? Is it based on the Kedushin Rishonim? So in this case, the Tanai, there was a Tanai by the Kedushin, and therefore in this situation, even though once he had Bia, it was based on that initial condition, and that initial condition was not met because, again, she has nedarim. So why does it need to be mentioned again? Where it's a sricha. Maybe only there does Rav say his din because a condition was made by kedushin. Givan the boil, but once he had bia with her, achle latanoi. So it's possible that he was forgiving, and therefore the bia is a new kinyan kedushin. But over here, maybe he'll agree to Shmuel. Miyam ki boil in Eloi boil lo. Again, we're asking the same question. Is it true it's all totally on bia? If there was no bia, then not. She's not linked to him. Bahahi uvda. There was a story. Look at Rashi actually. Di'i idmar baha. Gabi katana shlomi aina. When it came to the katana who didn't do miyan, baha kamarav the atsekadaita with boil l'shem kedushin. Mishigadlo mishum de le katanai. Ein psul kedushin harishayim mishum tanai. El mishum katnos. The whole point is not because it was a condition, she was just a katana. So the guy knew that the original kedushin is nothing because she was the katana. Therefore, maybe only there the bia was l'shem kedushin, because he knew that the first one was when she was a katana. Okay. So what was this story? The Havi Benarash in this location. So they did kedushin while she was yet a katana. For Godlin, she grew up. For Oisve Abe Kursaya, and they were having her go in this special caravan to the chuppah, this special ceremonial bridal chair. The Asachrina, so what? Look at Rashi. V'kasachadaitach kishar chupos shadain lobola. When there's chuppah, then afterwards they go to the yichud room and there's bia. So bia hasn't happened yet apparently. But Vil Hachi says Rashi lo hatzrichu get mibasra al mechol kedusha kamo. So let's see what that means in a second. See the rest of the Gemara. And then another person came and basically grabbed her. They were there. And we said that it wasn't necessary for them to have to, that second guy, to have to give her a get. Now, this is obviously a case when there was no bia, because this is talking about a situation that was going to chuppah. And until chuppah, there's no bia. So therefore, we see that she's still linked to her first man, even without bia. Right? Says no. Amra Papa Barnash, Minsam Netzive V'Hader Moisve Abe Kursaya. Actually, what they do is the opposite. They first do bia, and then after the complete consummation of the marriage, then they have the ceremony. And therefore, it's talking about a case actually only because there was bia does the second person not need to give a get. Rav Ashi Omer, hu asa shloi kahaygen, the second guy did something improper, stepping into this in the middle of the relationship. They're about to get married, and he gives her kedushin. So since he did something improper, lefika chasubo shloi kahaygen. Therefore, we do the same thing, and we do something which is not the norm of our normal routine. And we remove the second guy from the picture. In other words, normally you would need bia to say that the second man's marriage isn't chal. But here, there was no bia, so why is it acceptable? Why no get by the second guy? But we consider it as though it wasn't considered to be a kedushin, since he behaved shloi kahaygen. And since he acted shloi kahaygen, the din is, we can say, I don't care that you went through all the correct motions of what looks like a kedushin. We have the ability to say, it has to be kedas Moshe Yisrael. And therefore, in that situation, it was nothing. Armeli Ravino Ravashi Tinach the Kaddish Bekasba. This is we've had before. You can say when it comes to giving kedusha keseh, because that's a din of hefker based in hefker. So fine, in that situation we can remove it. However, kaddish bebia my the second guy, if he was mekadosh with bia, so shavu rabban labilos bilos nos, we consider it like bias nos. Fine. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, halacha k'Rebbe Lezer, v'cheina Amar Rebbe Lezer, halacha k'Rebbe Lezer. So we actually say l'maskana that in our Mishnah, even though there's multiple opinions, we end up saying the opinions like Rabbi Eliezer, that we're melamed as a katana shetimoyin boy, that we teach her to walk out of the relationship. Okay. Question 9. Where do we find this concept that someone who is das is al das is on the original kedushin? So we saw this. The second answer is based on a person who made a condition, and then married her stam without a condition. So he says you do not need a get. If let's say it turns out she doesn't need nadar. Why? Because his intention was going back to the kedushin, which had a condition that wasn't fulfilled. Or katana shalom ma'ayin, if you have a girl that didn't do miyun, big deal as she grows up, but amda v'nisei, since she marries someone else, sricha get misheni. You need a second get. Alpha bisha boil rishon mishagadla. Even if the first man had be with her after she grew up, we still say the din is that it's necessary for her to receive a get. Okay, so those are the two answers to that question. Weiter. Okay, let's see the next Mishnah. So you have one person in this situation, and he's married to two women who are young, and Rashi says nachriyais, they're not related. Ketanois, and therefore it's both of them are kedusha to Rabbanon, umes, and it turns out that he dies. So now you have these two women who are shemer javam to the brother. So biyasa or chalitzasa shel achs mehen, if with bia or the chalitza, Rashi says after she got older, of one of the brothers poiteres sarasa, that will pater the co-wife. V'chein shtei chershais. So too when it comes to another form of kedusha to Rabbanan, which, as we mentioned before, is when it comes to two women who are deaf mutes, in which we call it kedusha to Rabbanan. And Rashi says, Lo yadinan b'hai nichale v'hai chashiva ishto tvei. He says it's not clear which wife had a higher status. So that's by the katana and chareshas. But when it comes to the two chareshas, again, when the husband dies, so in the event that bia or chalitza takes place with them, that will pater the other one. Katana v'chareshas, as we said, both of them are both derabbanans. So ein bias achas mehem poiter sarasa. So if the brother would have bia with one of them, that's not going to pater the co-wife. for that matter, pikachas v'chereshes, if one of the girls is a pikachas, the other one is a cheresh, so bias hapikachas, if the one doing yibum has bia with the pikachas, poiteres hachereshes, that will free up the chereshes. However, in bias hachereshes, poiteres hapikachas, because the pikachas is really a yibum diraisa, it's a kedusha diraisa. So therefore, if you did had relations with the chereshes, which is only a din d'Rabbanan, a kedusha d'Rabbanan, that's not going to free up the tzara who is a deraisa. For that matter, gadol katana, bias gadol poteres katana. If, let's say again, you have two wives and the man dies, one is a gadol and one's katana, and the brother has bia with the older one, which is a yibum midaraisa through a kedusha deraisa, that will pater the katana. Vein bias katana poteres hagadayla. Okay. Now the Gemara says like this: v'chareshes bas chalitzahi. So we're saying, so when it comes to these two girls who are chareshes and their husband dies, so then the brother can do chalitza with them. What do you mean? Where do we find that they're able to do chalitza? But now we learn a little bit before, on Daf Kuf Dalad, Cheresh shenechlatz, the Cheresh shecholza, v'choyletzes min hakatan chalitza psula. So we see clearly that when it comes to doing chalitza with a woman who's a chereshes, that doesn't do anything. So what is this mission talking about? So Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav Abia. Actually, you're right. It's only talking about the case of bia. That in the event that you had bia with this woman, that is when it will pater the tzara, but not with chalitza. Because you're right, you can't do chalitza with a cheresh. So Rabbi Omer afil tema chalitza. I thought we said you can't do chalitza. Kan b'chereshes mikara, kan b'bikachas v'achach nischarsha. One is where she was always a chereshes, and one is when she was really a kedusha deraisa, and then later on in life she became a cheresh. So it's like this. Our Mishnah is a case of chereshes mikara, that she was always a cheresh, and therefore it was only kedusha d'Rabbanan. Ki heichi de'al hachi nafak, since she came this way into the marriage, therefore we will allow her to go out with chalitza. However, pikachas ve'achach nischar shaloi. However, she started off as pikachas, and now all of a sudden she becomes a charsha, so that's her status changed. And therefore, dem akbaba kriya. So we say that the kriya, the fact that she can't say a declaration, which is the problem, because it has to at least, even if the kriya is not ma'akiv, you just have to have the ability to speak. And if you don't have the ability, then it is ma'akiv. So therefore, because she came into the situation and it changed, so then the din is different. So the same way she came in midrabanan, so too she could leave with the chalitza. If she was married as a chereshes, and she can leave that way with chalitza, but not if there was this change. So Eisvi Abaye. So on this Abaye asked the following question: B'chereshes mikara bas chalitza hi. So you're telling me that she was a chereshes, so she walked in as a kedusha d'Rabbanan, so therefore she can also do chalitza. We can also do chalitza d'Rabbanan. It's not true. But Tanan shnei achin. We have two brothers. Echad pikech ve'echad cheresh. So one brother's a pikech, that was a cheresh. Nesuin l'shnei nachrias, and they were married to two women. Achas pikachas ve'achas chereshes. So the cheresh man was married to a chereshes woman. Meis cheresh, and now the cheresh died. So therefore, that kedushin to begin with is only din d'Rabbanan. So the din is bal hachereshes meis cheresh. So bal chereshes ma yasa pikeach bal pikachas. So the answer is kindness. This man is allowed to do yibum with the chereshes. He's allowed to. V'im ratzul haitzi yaitzi, and if he wants, he could give her a get without chalitza. Let's say meis pikech. In this situation, it was the pikech that died, so his pikachas wife falls to the other who is a cheresh. So bal pikachas ma yasa cheresh bal chereshes. So what happens? So kindness ve'enu moitzi lo'olam. So the cheresh can't do chalitza. So what happens? So they can get married, but she can never leave. His brother's marriage, he can never leave his brother's marriage, as a pikeach is stronger than his, so he can't give her a get. So the Gemara asks, my law, b'chareshes mikara. We're talking about a case of a chareshes mikara, but katani kindness in. The only option for him is only yibum, as we continue to kuf yud omid beis chalitz lo. So we see that even someone who's a chareshes mikara, you still can't do chalitz lo. That case where chalitza doesn't work is only bibikachas ve'achach nischarsh, as we said. Only in the case of no chalitza is where she was originally bikachas and then she became a chereshes, as we said. So in that situation, you're right, we don't do chalitza. However, if there was a chereshes from the beginning, so she walked into the marriage that way, so chalitza can also be done. Toshma. Shnei achin, pikchin, let's say you have two brothers, and they're both healthy and fine. Nesuin shnei nachrios. And they marry two unrelated women. Achas bikachas v'achas chereshes. Now, meis pikeach, so the man who's, one of the pikeach men who die, so therefore this woman, bal hachereshes, ma yase pikeach, bal pikachas, so kindness. So the din is that we say he should get married to the chereshes, and no chalitza should be done. The imratz lo yitzi he can give a get, no chalitza. Meis pikeach, if the pikeach died, bal pikachas ma yase pikeach, bal chereshes, so ol chalitz o miyabim. So in that situation, either chalitza or yibum could be done. So my love, again, the first part, midahu pikeach mikara, hinami chereshes mikara. Bekatani kindness in the chalitz loy. So we see, again, l'chara, this is a raya, or a question, that only yibum can be done, not chalitza. The Gemara says, the area, hakadisa. Just because in one case there was always a pikachas, it doesn't mean that the case over here is always a cheresh, or always a chereshes. No. Maybe we're talking about a situation. Why can we not do chalitzas? Dafka because they were pikachas originally, and therefore the status changed to a chereshes. However, if there was always a chereshes, so in that situation, chalitza could be done. Esvei, shnei achin, you have two brothers. Echad pikech, echad cheresh. Again, one of the brothers is healthy, one is deaf. Nesuin shnei achayos, and they marry two sisters. Now, achas pikachs v'achas chereshes. The meis cheresh, so the man who is deaf, which was a kedusha rabbanan, died. Now, bal chereshes ma yas pikech bal pikachas. What should this brother do? Does he do yibum with this girl? But they're sisters. So teitzei mishum achas isha. So then it is no, it's achas isha. Meis pikeach. Let's say the pikeach died. Bal pikachas ma yasa cheresh. Bal chereshes moitzias ish to beget. So since there's the zika is a full marriage and his wife is a weaker marriage because he's married to a chereshes, so therefore he has to give her a get. The eishes achav asur oilam, and his brother's wife is also forever. So why can chalitza not take place? Oh, because we're talking about this situation. Mapik. Are they able to give a get for Tanan? Nischarsha yoitzi. If let's say later on you became deaf, so then you can give a get. Nishtates lo yoitzi. A person became a shaita, never. Nischarish who, let's say he, and this is the key line, if he became a cherish, oh nishtatva lo yoitzi alamas. So elwa b'cherish mikara. Obviously we're talking about a cherish mikara. Since the man is a cheresh mikara, so he nami chereshes mikara. It must be the case as talking about a woman is a chereshes mikara too. And they're all, it has to be in a line. Utanan gabi nachris kindness in chayotz lo. So again, we see apparently a proof that when it comes to this situation, that even though she walked in as a chereshes, the din still is that you cannot do chalitza. Ishtik. So that was a good question. They remained silent. They didn't know the answer. Kiyosel came into Rabbi Yosef, my time why don't you basically respond the following? You could have said like this. When it comes to sisters that were Chareshes Mikara, Nachris Pikchais Nischarshu. Why would we compare that to a case of non-related sisters and of someone who is a Pikeach and then becomes Nischarshu? In other words, they're totally two different related situations. One is where you have two unrelated women as opposed to sisters. So it doesn't really sound like a strong question. You should have asked a question like this. You have two brothers and they're both cherishin themselves. They end up marrying two women who are sisters, and they are able to hear and see and speak. Or let's say they marry just like them, women who are cherish. One is, one isn't. Or if let's say you have two sisters that are deaf, and they marry two brothers who are able to speak. Or just like them. It says they're pater from yibum because of achas isha, but it even says they're pater from chalitza, and that's the point. And we see that even in this situation, again, there's no chalitza. If they're not related, they could actually get married. They can give a get. They can give a get, but no chalitza. So echidami. If originally they were pichim and then they became nischarshu, they wouldn't be able to leave. But tanan nishtatis loitzit. Someone who becomes a shaita cannot leave that relationship. For that matter, nischarshu o nishtatva lo yoitze lomis. It says mefarish that they would not be able to leave that relationship. So this cannot be the case. Rather, must be talking about why are you able to leave this relationship? Because they're always a cherish. Now, umidehain cherishin mikara in hunami cherishin mikara. Tani mahayu nachrias nichnasu yichnasu in yachloitzulo shifta the rabba tiyufta. So we see here a proof that chalitza cannot be done by a chereshes, regardless if she was always a chereshes or developed it later on. Okay, let's see if there's a question on this. That was lengthy with numerous questions. Finally, we ended up saying that that is a conclusive refutation. Let's see. Question 10, maybe? No? Okay. Let's see if there's any questions on TA or TB. Question TA3. Cherish. Shiyavam pikachas. You have a cherish in which a cherish man who did yibum with a pikachas, him yochel garsha. Is he allowed to divorce her? Ve'im hacherish yochel lichleitz. And is she allowed to do chalitza? So let's do the easy one. Chalitza we saw cannot be done. That's clear. Can they leave? So im zikasa diraisa. If the zika is so strong, and yachal garsha, he cannot divorce her. Vim zikasa dirabanan shnafim achal cherish. Let's say his brother's only a cherish, yachal garsha. So he only has the ability to remove if it's something similar to him. So if his brother who died was a cherish, so he could also remove her from this relationship. But the Zika is stronger because she was married through a Kedusha D'Oraisa, and then the man dies, so then he would not be able to leave that relationship. That was TA 3. Let me just mark this down. TA 3, which is part of the Tiyufta. And as we said, it's totally on the Zika. Okay. Let's see if we have a question on T4. Misha Hayunasa, we assume a katana L'chareshes umeis, uba yavam al shtehem im paisel es rishayna. So he says that there's ba chareshes tchila nisel b'bia katana. Okay, we didn't do this yet. Okay, weiter. So it says like this. Let's say you have a woman your wife has a katana and also the charashas. So in that situation, they're both durabanans. And then the man dies. So we say, when it comes to the brother, the bia of one will not pater the tzara because it's not so clear who is stronger than the other. So Rav Nachman Ashchel Rav Ada Baravo Rav Ach or Rav Chana Chasne. I found them diasve. They were sitting vika makavu akvasa, and the students were gathering around b'shuk in the marketplace the pumbedisa. The Amri haditnan, that which we learned regarding one man who married to both a katana v'cherashes. One man who's married to a katana and to a chereshes, ein bias achsmen poiteres sarasa, that man dies, the brother cannot having bia with one of them will not part to the co-wife. Hanimili dinafale mi achiv pikech. That's only in the situation where the original brother who died was the pikech. In that situation, we don't know which one is more nicha to him. Why would he think that the katana is like a stronger marriage? Because the asal chaldea, because she eventually will become a bas das. Maybe he likes the chereshes more because she's old and he's shaykh that be with her. So in that situation, that's where we do not know, and therefore having bia with one of them will not pat the tzara. Let's say the original man was a cheresh that died, and now you have this other man, vade bechereshes nichale. He's going to certainly connect more to his wife who is deaf. The bas biahi, ubas minahi, because not only is she a bas bia, but she's also a bas mina. In other words, because we're talking about a situation where not only is she a chereshes, which she's an adult, so she's das bia, but in addition to that, she's also a bas mine he, because the man, her husband was a cheresh, and therefore there was a stronger connection. It was clear that the original man had a connection to a chereshes. One deaf woman and a deaf man, they're able to have a strong bond and relationship as they have a lot of common ground. The aminu huanan, I said, no. Even in that situation, it could potentially be a suffix. Fine. And let's see one more line. Ketzad takanasan. So what's the takan in this situation? So Amrav Chisda Amrav kaines hechereshes. So this man will marry the chereshes, and then he'll give her a get afterwards. And then he has to wait until this katana gets older and then do chalitza. Okay, we're going to stop there, but let's just see maybe TB 4. Misha yinasu yisayim katana ul chereshes umeis. Uba yavam al shtehem ha'im pasal es rish. Oh, this is a pasal rishayna. Again, we didn't do that yet. Adkan.